Or if you don't recognize that, how about this one? Right? Shannon.
Now we're getting serious.
Welcome to the show. I've been given a remarkable honor today and asked to do an introduction for the Meet the Editors seminar. And the man in charge is a phenomenal person and a phenomenal talent, and I want you to know that I have prepared a bubbly and entirely deserved introduction for him, and he's asked me not to do it. So, without further ado, may I just simply introduce the moderator of the panel, the editor of the Absolute Sound, one of the finest, most accomplished hobby in our industry, Robert Hartley.
Thanks everyone for coming to Meet the Editors. We do this every show, and this is your opportunity to ask questions of magazine editors and writers of anything that's on your mind about how we review products or policies of the magazine or finding products for review or whatever interests you. So why don't we start by having the panelists introduce themselves.
I'm Neil Gator. I'm an associate editor and acquisitions manager with the Absolute Sound.
I am Roger Scoff. I am a cable manufacturer. No, I'm Michael Fremer. I'm a senior editor at Stereophile and the editor of AnalogPlanet.com.
I'm David Robinson, editor-in-chief of Positive Feedback Online.
Dave Clark, I edit his stuff. Right channel? Right. I'm Steve Rothman with EnjoyTheMusic.com.
So let's open it up to questions.
For years, the editors of all the magazines have said support your local dealer. In fact, it's so important that there's actually a seminar about supporting your local dealer here. I'm just wondering why the hell you guys don't write reviews and articles about local dealers?
Well, I've got actually a funny story about this. Brian Burdan, an iconic name in Los Angeles, he's got a dealership out in Pasadena, gorgeous, a little shop in Old Town, which I encourage everyone, if you can get up there, to support and visit. And our magazine does dealer profiles periodically, and I've been after Brian since he opened, but I'm still waiting for photography. And he said his store is so oddly laid out that the first batch of photos from a professional photographer he nixed. So he's waiting to get more pictures in, and I told him as soon as he sends them to me, then I'm going to do an interview with him, I'm going to include the photos, and we will have a dealer profile. It's something we want to do more and more of, but it's just a matter of not having the boots on the ground to get to some of these guys.
I think his problem is the developing of the film is taking a long time. I think part of the thing is that dealers are local and the magazines are kind of international, so it's nice to spend some time on local dealers and profile them, but to whom is really address a very small segment that the readers can really take advantage of that. It's probably a nice thing to do. I'm not sure for the most readers it's going to have that much of an impact. The concept is what we're pushing.
Well, there's another aspect to it too, Michael, and that is that it's very hard to do that in a balanced way. And if you know something about some of these locales, the competition amongst the dealers is really fierce. If you profile one guy, you bloody well better profile the other guy real fast, or you're gonna have some very serious bad blood.
We're not welcome in some dealers.
There's that too.
Yeah, we've done a number of dealer profiles, but we should do more. And we've kind of chosen dealers that we think are really top-notch in their area. So it kind of forces us to choose sides, in essence, but we want to point out the really great dealers.
And there hasn't, as far as I know, from our standpoint, there hasn't been any blowback.
This gentleman had a question.
Interesting, it comes to that. Being the person at the San Joaquin Valley, I have 150 miles to get to San Francisco or 180 miles to get to LA before I can find any bricks and mortar. But my question is, the SR gentleman vendor down a couple doors said, HD analog. Who the thunkin'? He was, of course, talking about a 15 IPS tape deck. Is there any motion, movement afoot that will take a look at 7.5 IPS on the quarter inch? There's only 500,000 more of those size decks than there are of the 10 inch.
I doubt that, because I think that they see this as a niche for people who have a lot of money to spend, and they want that. That's all people want, the highest quality. So they want the big reels, 59 10s. You know, Reeboks is going to make tape recorders again, going back to the tape business. And most of the people I know who are doing this are selling very small numbers of tapes.
That's right.
And I don't think and tape is expensive. So even if you half the price, and so instead of being $600 a reel, it's $300 a reel. It's going to be a very expensive niche product, and you know, most of those tapes are third generation by the time you get them, at least, or more. And frankly, if you get a record 45 RPM pressed from the tape itself, it may not be as good in some ways, but in other ways it's going to be better, it's going to be quieter. So I think the tape thing is great for people who want it, but it's not practical for most people. It's expensive even if it was 15, 7.5, and a smaller reel. So I'm not sure that's on that.
I mean, there was, if you go back and look at the history of open reel, we all remember all the way back, you could do 7.5 down to 1 and 7/8. The return on investment wasn't there. That's why the labels went away from it. They tried to cut back on the tape cost by going to slower speeds. And you reach a point for high-end audio diminishing returns really fast. I think the only product that's out there that's going to support people who are serious is going to be probably 15 amps. Then you know you're getting something that's roughly equivalent to the master.
Thank you.
What else?
Hello.
Yes.
What's the goodness of my vinyl collection? Read your paragraphs about fan.
Some bad's coming, I can tell.
There's some critics out there that dislike this, dislike that as far as the source of the vinyl.
Yeah.
Okay? Give me some counsel on where you are in your world of vinyl and what you recommend for vinyl myself. I'm 76, I still have pretty good ears, but not swallow if you want $30 for a record.
You want to make sure it's not from a bad source.
I'm very detail oriented, just like my personal oriented. So I nitpick, see?
Okay.
So when you did the article on the Beatles,
Right.
I read that, and that guy Seaman, my brother over in the old country.
Right.
He had a nice conversation. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I trust you, because you forgot more about vinyl than I'll ever know.
That's a fight I had with the guy in the record store who threw me out on record store day because I was going through the records too quickly. There's a whole nother story. You should, it was great.
The old Bubbas, that Doug, the boys that did the remastering, they're not gonna be around forever. In the meantime.
They're
we
teaching
got-
new guys, they're teaching new guys.
Okay, I'd like to hear that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we got the creepers come in and they say, hey, I got this album on my little thumb drive. Boop. Okay, that's here to stay.
That's right, and that's okay.
A lot of the youth of today are dead from the neck up when it comes to music appreciation.
But more are waking up all the time, and everybody who has met those people, kids buying turntables, I was on an
Okay, I
airplane.
stand corrected then, gentlemen.
No, I was on an airplane and sitting next to a 17-year-old girl and her mother coming back from Italy, and the daughter says, "Oh, my friends have turntables, so I'm getting one." And the mother says, "I play CDs," and the daughter says, "Mom, you're so old-fashioned." It was so great. But you're right about sources, and it's important to know the source. When you buy a $50 record, you want to know the source, and a lot of these companies are not saying what the source is, or they fudge it and they go, remastered from the original analog tape. That doesn't mean anything either, because what they're doing is they're taking the tape and they're digitizing it, and then they're cutting from that. You should know that that's the case, and that's not always bad. I mean, the Tommy that came out recently from 9624 files that Kevin Gray cut. It sounds fantastic. What counts is how it sounds. Doesn't, the source is secondary, but the source is important.
And I solved the problem that a lot of the seniors here can identify. When the stylus in the first group, and they say it's a 16-minute side, I set the timer. If all else fails, the timer's a minute before it wakes me up. So
Then the music or the system is not happening, because if it's happening, you shouldn't fall asleep, or you need more sleep.
But guys like you, listen up, folks. Guys like you are not allowed to age. Because without you, it would be a lonely existence. And you're going to help me with my turntable.
Uh-oh, well, stay for next time, and you'll help
Well,
yourself.
we're developing new young writers.
That's right.
We just hired a full-time editorial guy. He's 27 years old.
But he's got experience.
Actually, he does. His
What
father's
did
an
you know when you were
audiophile.
27?
Actually, his father's been an audiophile all his life.
Okay.
He's been an audiophile. He has a huge record collection. He plays vinyl. He's built tube electronics.
Okay.
He's a very smart young man.
And his name is not Corey Greenberg, so we're all
That's
safe.
right.
We're all safe.
And he's 27 years old, and he just joined the full-time editorial staff. So
Does he listen?
he does. He has a very good ear.
There are lots of kids like that. I agree to talk to them. all the
And
time.
speaking of mislabeling the source of LPs, when I was in the Munich show a couple of weeks ago, I saw this LP that said direct to disc, cut direct to disc, and then in small type from the master tape.
That's how every record's made.
Is that worth a trip and to Germany?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
It's
it's
an amazing
changed your
show.
life. Changed your life.
I'd like to make a comment because my son is 26. He's in audio. And he's gone from MP3 128 to realize he now loves vinyl better. But everybody has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice when you can open up something. It's like, okay, this person's been, I read firmer stuff because it's like, okay, he knows more about vinyl than I've been, and I love reading it because it helps me figure stuff out. But ultimately, someone has to start somewhere.
Yeah,
And eventually we're going to be gone, and who's going to, you can't like instantly like, someone's 26 and they already know everything. I actually like reading people's stuff who's coming from this pathway, where's their journey going, and you see them kind of evolving and changing, and it kind of takes me back when I was that age, because we all started someplace.
One of the big problems is some of the online magazines do not bring young writers along. I'm sure Robert's going to bring this guy along and edit him, and because when I first started at T.H.E a long time ago, I wrote the same review for a whole year before Harry Pearson would publish it. I wrote it and wrote it and wrote it, and he sent it back and back until he thought it was right. But today, anybody can go online and start spouting and writing.
I guess I forget when I was young once.
No, you don't, obviously.
That was last week.
God bless you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Why are American publishers afraid to compare components when the British publishers do compare components?
I don't know that comparisons establish credibility in the first place. Okay, if you go on the assumption that unless I throw somebody to the wolves periodically, I'm not credible, that's not credible itself.
They don't really throw them to the wolves. They actually do very thoughtful.
I think a lot of us,
Little bit sounds
we do it in
better.
reviews. I mean, I know in reviews all the time, I'll compare, it's a review of a product, but I'll compare it to other similar products that I've reviewed, or on my website I
The
do.
usual comparison I see is, well, this compares to something that costs 10 times as much, which really doesn't tell very much, but when you do something like, Mike, what you do, where you'll say, it sounds similar to this or that,
Yeah.
to me, that's very useful.
That is useful.
I may have heard something like that.
I think we've all done you could probably speak on like shootouts and so forth. But I've done power cord surveys, God help me, I don't want to do it. I've done cable surveys, I've done cartridge surveys. We've all done various things like that. I did small speaker surveys,
I subscribe to all of your publications, but also subscribe to Hi-Fi News, because they specifically do every single issue. They pick some product and typically compare 5 or 6 of them. And it's interesting because it really kind of shows you the state of the art.
I think it's really important that the writers do. It lends the writer credibility when he imparts perspective to the reader. If I reviewed a little ATC, compact monitor, and then I reviewed the little Focal Aria, even though maybe they're $1,000 apart and so forth, I try to reference not which one is a better speaker, but just how they sound differently. And I think that's important.
Well, you have to remember too that when depending on who it is, when you read comparative reviews, you may be learning more about the state of the reviewer than you are about the components.
Sometimes.
You need to know, I emphasize every time on this subject, you need to understand that even amongst the most experienced reviewers, and people who are really credible are the ones that I know have invested in their audio education. They have put in the years, they've been in the places, they've been there, they've done it. And for me, what I'm looking for is an understanding that there really is nobody who's an absolute expert, okay? There's a relativity to the expertise, and different people concentrate in different areas. You know, Michael has spent a great deal of time in analog. I've spent a ton of years now in DSD, and it's you pick an area and you burrow into it. You do everything you can. I've hung on to every source that I had. I have every album I ever own. I have open reel tape and DATs. I got everything. Okay. I still have a Nakamichi cassette player.
Damn good.
You know, I mean seriously, because then you listen to the stuff, but remember that what all of us are sending to you is really a scouting report. We're scouts. We're out over the horizon. We come riding back. We tell you what we're seeing, what we hear. And over time, you come to trust certain people. But ultimately, you are the one who are going to have to.
Don't you hate getting letters? What should I buy? Which one of these should I buy? Well, I'll tell you who to marry first. You marry that person, then we'll talk about hi-fi. It's crazy to tell someone what to buy.
A review is one person's opinion. It's informed and educated opinion, but it's still one person's opinion in that particular system.
And I think that's to the point of why I enjoy seeing someone do a comparison, is it tells me how they think, it tells me what they consider important about, here's a series of integrated amplifiers. And so I'm interested in what do they talk about when they're looking at integrated amplifiers.
You get less information though, because there's only so much space in a magazine.
Yeah,
and so you divide it up into 5 integrated amplifiers, you're getting capsules.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, you're getting 5 capsule summaries, but what it's telling you is there may be a specific thing they're looking at, they're focusing on across all of them, and then as a buyer, that gives me useful information. When I go out and I have my 2 or 3, I'm comparing, I go, oh yeah, I need to pay attention to, or I should be listening for X, Y, Z.
We tend to do that with less expensive products, like Stephen Stone does a lot of DAC surveys. They'll do 3 DACs under $800, for example.
Those are good.
And I think David makes a great point too. You kind of get to know the reviewer. For example, I'm in a smaller room. I don't have a big room like our reviewer in Washington, Jacob Heilbrunn, or Robert Harley. So, yeah, we got one room, right? But we've all been.
Room envy.
Yes, it's like you know that reviewer and you know that reviewer, and you kind of learn his listening biases.
So, forgive me if this is already addressed. It seems that right now there's 2 opposing trends that are going on in audio. One is the resurgence of vinyl, which we're looking forward to from our conversation about in a couple hours, and the other one is complete demolition of digital media. So CDs, SSCDs. One seems to be like a response against commodification of music, valuing it with a physical piece that has audio. And the other one is complete and total access. So Spotify, this kind of thing, perhaps evolving into high resolution audio files. In which case you have 2 very different paths of achieving this goal of listening to music. What do you see as the implications then for this industry, and the consequence as a consequence of these 2 opposing trends, or 2 different trends?
They're not opposing. I think they're complementary. It's better quality, and everybody can respond to that. This industry is all about better quality, and I think we've lost it for a couple of years. Streaming is going to be bad. It's not about quality. It's about quantity. It's about fast food. Most of us stream, but what we stream mostly is. But that's not so. So the point is that streaming will always be low resolution. I think if the record industry is smart, they will restrict those companies to the low resolution files, and then find a way to commoditize the high resolution files to sell them to people as downloads. So something that you would own. And then everybody wins, because Spotify and those sites become like, remember those little plastic records you get in a magazine and play? It's like that. You learn what a music is that you might like and you want to own, and then you go out and buy it in a higher resolution. So I think there's no conflict between vinyl and high-resolution files, and I don't really see a conflict between high-resolution files and streaming, because streaming is just a whole different, it's just access to find out what music you like. Our job is to teach people and to show mainstream people that sound does make a difference, that speakers do make a difference. The New York Times will tell you they'll have a $5,000 chaise lounge. There'll be no comment about the price. It's $5,000 chaise lounge. Then when they review loudspeakers, it's, well, they're good, but they're $500 and they're pricey. And that just drives us crazy because it's...
Well, as I see it, I want my music everywhere all the time. I've been doing cloud servers since before people called them, they were cloud servers. There is streaming high resolution, just not available in America at the moment. For me, I agree, there's vinyl, high resolution streams, it's all good. As long as I can have whatever music I want in high quality, I'm cool with it. The one thing we should be thanking in some ways is the high-resolution video that they're starting to now come out, or some people call it erroneously in some ways 4K. That's going to open up a lot of bandwidth, and I believe that our industry, at least streaming music, is going to benefit. How many of you are familiar with Beats Music and what happened recently? How many of you have inside connections to Apple or Beats? So you do.
You know,
So
they started a mob.
They eliminated MOG, which is boo. I totally agree. That's.
What about the artists? The big problem.
Oh, the artists are getting
making no money.
They're getting screwed.
That's
I'm
what
sorry if my
streaming-
language is a bit blunt, so
Streaming
please
is
let me
bad.
go
It's bad for
apologize.
music because if people can't make a living at it, they're not going to want to get into it.
I agree that needs to be reworked. I totally agree with you there. But we will have streaming high resolution. How
I
the
hope not.
business model? It's going to happen.
Not necessarily.
Okay, how much money? We have the money. Let's put mums. I'm serious. $1,000.
Depends if they get
There's no technical reason why you can't stream.
Right.
That's correct.
But just to follow up this gentleman's point, I had Don Was, who's the head of Blue Note Records, had a very nice interview discussion at the Grammy Museum, and I posed the same question. How about when you have these young artists in particular, and they come out with an album, and I can listen to that on that streaming service. I'm not, if there's no vinyl available, I'm not motivated to buy that other medium. Unless you have a conduit, the expectation is the business model will support, as a consumer, will support their income. And if that's not the case, that is, if I listen to this on Spotify, this guy's gonna get kicked out of his cubicle in Manhattan because he's not getting money, that's something I need to know.
That's right.
And it's not being communicated.
But see, that's where there are two aspects of this question. On the one hand, we have the high resolution side. That goes to the audiophile question that we should be about. We're looking for mic feeds and master tapes. That's what we're looking for with the occasional directed disc. That's the high resolution side of the equation, whether analog or digital. The other side of it is the business model question and distribution question. The fact is that the current streaming business models that are out there are literally balancing their profits on the back of the artists.
Especially Apple.
They're
really
killing the artists. That's not a high resolution problem. That's not what it is. It's the way that they built their system. They built it to screw the artists. It's the only way that they're making money. If you commodify things too much, then people aren't willing to pay the real value to support the artists. That's a different question.
It costs $200 now. It's actually flip-flop. So I have a friend that's an artist in East San Diego County. She only has 10,000 customers, but she owns her own publishing company. So every time she sells an album, she sells 10,000 of them. She makes everything except $1. The other model is you go to a publishing house in MCA or something, you're filled with one, and you make the $1 and they make the $10 through the distribution channel.
That's right.
So she reversed it. The other thing that's trending is they stream for free and then they charge $100 to $200 tickets for concerts, and they sell T-shirts and coffee mugs and kind of all the other paraphernalia.
Yeah, $30, $40 T-shirts.
Oh yeah.
That's great if you can get tickets. I mean,
So
they're
there's no way to kind of flip the model.
in New York, it's almost impossible to get tickets to see things. And I went to see this Gene Clark tribute. That was one of the best concerts I've seen in about 20 years. But I could not. I went online the second the tickets went on sale, pushed the button, and they were all sold out. So I had to pay like $80 a ticket. I got tickets. It was worth going to. But live music is the best way to see things, obviously. But recordings are important because most of us can't get to see that much live music. It's more expensive than hi-fi.
One of the business models, I'd be interested in your thoughts about crowdsourcing and some of the companies now are using to bring products to market and so on.
U-Turn turntable for $178 was crowdsourced, and it's a terrific little turntable for $178, and it'll get a lot of kids buying records and not ruining their records like you would with the Crosley Groove Tour, which, you know, we should all be fighting, anybody into the vinyl should be fighting that company's nonsense, because it's bad.
Crowdsourcing is awesome. I'm so glad with Kickstarter. There's a lot of, whether it's audio or not even audio, and geek related, there's a lot of products out there I never imagined I'd be able to buy in kit form or pre-built for such low money through crowdsourcing Kickstarter. Because there's a lot of us geeks out there, but some genius decided to offer it on Kickstarter, and okay, $200-300. I love it. I love crowdsourcing.
Footnote on 4K. The greatest thing since canned beer, but it's not going to be available in my backyard or on your TV monitor or on your Cloud 9, whatever they call it. The delivery system is DVD, and if we were a student of Peter Putnam, the projector expert, okay, I don't want to drop names, but you guys all know Peter Putnam. A little hard to understand, but so are a lot of us. 4K, I'm 76, I'm looking for another 10, good luck. You know, I got the last plasma that pioneered.
I have one myself.
But, you know, guys, 4K, don't hold your breath.
And that's what killed plasma, what's killing plasma. They don't want to invest in 4K plasma, and it's still much better than LED, LCD. I can't watch those
You gotta
TVs.
have a delivery system.
Well, yeah, the main thing that this is going to do, though, is it's a digitator. Basically, we're talking bandwidth. Video is going to drive the demand, mass demand for bandwidth, and then audio gets to draft right behind it.
Thank you.
Try and get all the vendors in one room right now.
Well, actually, they're working on that. They're working on that. In fact, there's an initiative between the Consumer Electronics Association, the major record labels, and the hardware manufacturers. They're coming together to promote high resolution as a mass market format. I was at a meeting about 6 weeks ago at Sony with an executive from Universal Music Group, and they're talking about having kiosks with headphones in Best Buys and places like that, where you can compare MP3, CD quality, and high res of the same file. They're serious about it this time. And things like the new Harman Kardon edition of the Sprint phone does 96, 120, or 192 24-bit. Will play high res files. You can download high res files into a phone. That's as mainstream as it can get, is when you have high res capability on a
I
phone.
gotta get everybody together, not just Sony. Sony wants to buy the world. I love Sony. I got some kludges by Sony.
They don't have the cash anymore to buy the world, so they're joining the rest of the world at this point.
Agreed.
But what's great about this is that all these people online who say, you know, none of this makes a difference. CDs are perfect. There's an article you that says high resolution audio is bad. You don't go above CD because CD is really where it's at. Go above that is bad. Or cables don't make a difference. All these people, they're all going to get proven wrong because every person can now go into a wall and put a headphone on and hear what we've been talking about for 30 years.
Still need the standard for delivery.
Well, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
It's just people listening.
On that topic, could you all comment further on high resolution? I come to these shows every year, and I hear more and more about what you're saying about high resolution. Any trends, anything you're seeing? This is very interesting. To identify anything else, or even supplemental remarks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we've seen in the past year since the high resolution audio initiative that CEA and others have been advancing for this year has been, for example, explosion in DSD, double DSD, download sites for DSD and not just PCM. We have actually opened the door to, because we have bandwidth now and computer storage is cheap. You can buy a 4 terabyte drive for $159 at Costco. I go in and I buy them several at a time. And the fact is that then I get to hear sound that really is the thing. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we have LPs, we have open reel tapes. SACD is good. We have found that decoupling DSD from the optical mechanism is even better. And now then, up in our room at the PFO hospitality room, I've been playing single, double, and quad DSD for people. And I have mastering engineers. I had a mastering engineer up in my room this morning, and I played him a double DSD that I had personally transferred from 15 amp staff track using emerging technologies, Horus AD. I played him the double, and he was astonished. I put on the quad, and he said, "Oh my God." He says it's the thing itself. And so we're actually getting to a point where we're able to deliver those mic feeds and master tapes. Our LPs are the best in history. Ever. We have better turntables, better tone arms, better cartridges. We have the best consumer open reel tapes we've ever seen. And we've got DSD that you can download from Chad Kassem all day.
And we're getting the access to people that can hear it, and the average consumer.
And we actually have the better quality in our room.
I look at it as we need to get the ability of playback into the mass market. I have a Galaxino 3. I've been playing 2496 for about a year? On my cell phone. I'm not saying it's the highest quality playback, but because now Wolfson, I believe, threw the first one with the 5110 chip, but now there are many more chips that they can throw in cell phones that will handle the high resolution files. The more ways that we can get regular consumers getting gear that can handle the file type, then makes it a viable way to market it and sell it.
And the more titles for all of us.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's just a niche
If
market.
not,
with a
if
small
not,
number
it
of
becomes a
titles.
Pono where only a few people will have it and go, which I love this industry, but it's not going to drive a mass market in a big way.
How do you get the labels to release more stuff? I mean,
They're working on it.
They are.
Yeah.
There's a guy watermarking them right now for Apple. They already have the files.
How do you make the big labels do anything? You show them the money.
Yeah.
Or the power of Apple, which is what they're leveraging.
As soon as they start hearing about the fact that they could sell their stuff, I mean, we have, iFi has its DSD, the IS DSD Nano now, $189, and it'll do quad DSD. Well, now there's no reason not to do it. You can actually try it. You get $180 is a throwaway. Try it, see what it sounds like in your system. And as you start downloading the files, it's just like Chad Kassem says, look, it costs $50 if I'm going to make a living, $50 to do a 45 right on 200 gram. It costs $30 for me to properly do SACD right. And if you buy it from me, you know it's going to be right. I pay that money all day long.
Yep.
All day long I'll pay it because I know it's good. That's provenance. I know if Chad does it, Mr. Chad is not going to screw me over. It's not like buying organic, which is masters, or from the masters. If Chad does it, it's not just somebody stamping organic on it. It really is organic.
He goes the extra mile on everything.
He does.
It's like many things in life, new dealer.
By the way, the Universal Music Group executive at this meeting, I was asking about the mastering system, and he said, I'm trying to remember this, he said, we have a system set up to more quickly shovel content into the pipeline.
And let's not forget that half of their content was burned in a fire 10 years ago. There were no master tapes left of Chess, of Motown, of Impulse. All those things are gone.
They're gone.
Because of their stupidity storing this stuff on top of this mountain that's called to catch fire. So the master tape of record for all of those labels is original clean vinyl.
Or it's when I was showing, I had John Eric Parson from Opus 3 Records in our room during Rocky Mountain. I had pulled some double and quad DSDs of his analog master series, and he listened and he said, "That's my tape." And I told him, I said, with the quad DSD that I pulled myself off of that, really, that was a UHA Phase 11S open rail machine. I said, if you lost the master tape, I have it.
Yeah.
And he knows it. He says, that's my tape.
Well, that one DSD was originally designed for.
That's exactly, it was an archiving format.
This gentleman in the back.
Digital or high resolution and provenance. I was going to buy Muddy Waters' album on HD tracks the other day. You'll get it 44, 86, or 88, and 192. Does it matter? I mean, the 192 is $10 more than the other ones.
that was done in the 60s, and
Okay.
that's an amazing recording. I want that as high resolution as I can get. If for $10 more, take a chance and then listen to it. And
But I mean, it wasn't near 192 on the tape.
it was more than 192 on the tape.
Yeah, it was analog.
Analog.
15 hips, yeah. Yeah. And so the answer to that question is, in PCM, buy it as high as you can get it. Generally I find the 192 sounds better than, say, 80, something lower like a 96. But I'll tell you the truth, if I can get it on DSD, I don't even do it on PCM. Because there's some, to my ears, there's still a bit of an edge, there's a little bit of a bite. And what I look for in an analog masters, I look for that I'm looking for that ease and the naturalness. I find that on DSD, and now, for example, John Eric has set up a download site, dsdfile.com, where you go and you can buy the single DSD port, it's like the double DSD. You hear the double DSD, it's the best. He charges $5 more for it. That's one of
What is that website again?
dsdfile.com.
Now, I brought a thumb drive to Munich that had Quiet Nights by Oscar Peterson transferred from Chad's double 45, and they had the SACD in the room, and we compared the two.
Yeah.
And the thumb drive from the vinyl just killed the
You can
SACD.
take the optical
It was
out.
not even close.
It's one of the nice things is we decoupled DSD from SACD. You don't have to worry about
That
that.
would be worth hearing to hear.
Yeah, that's really worth hearing. I mean, if you want to come up, we're doing single, double, and quad DSD stuff up in the PFO room. You can hear it.
And they have good coffee.
And we have good coffee.
And bourbon.
Yeah, it's really bourbon and single.
And special.
I mean, the idea is, if you want the best, to my ears, DSD as high as you can get it. That will give you the thing.
There's also the question, though, of where, how are these high-res masters made? Are they upsampled from CD? It's a trivial matter to take a 44 1/16-bit CD master that the record company's already paid for and just upsample it to 9624, and it
Or
looks
DSD.
like
That's what happened with Nora Jones' first record.
it looks like a 9624 file. It's for all intents and purposes 9624, but once it's been in the 16-bit 44.1 world, it's irreparably damaged.
As a matter of fact, if you do the frequency analysis,
Right, you see the
a brick wall, you'll see it. It could come off of an SACD, and when you see that 20 or so K cutoff,
Okay, so the Muddy Waters, because of the way it was recorded or something, may be good. But let's say something was done in the 80s or 90s, I don't know anybody that records.
watch out for the big labels.
You got to find out how it was.
Yeah, because DVD was probably only done 20-bit 48.
It's hard to find that stuff out a lot.
Right, because from the early 80s to the mid 90s, all professional recording equipment was 16-bit, 48 kilohertz.
If you look at the sparse code and you see the DDD, then you know you're already dead.
Well, I mean,
dead.
I can't see that.
Well, seriously, I mean, this is really an important question because do not trust the big labels.
You can't.
They don't know what they're doing. Most of the time, they don't know what they have. Sometimes when you say we want the master, talk to Chad about this.
Oh, yeah.
He'll say, we want the master tapes, man. And they'll say, oh, well, we got it. And in comes something that's obviously PCM.
Yeah, he's just done Tony Bennett Live at Carnegie Hall, which is an amazing recording. And he had a fight for like 6 months to get the real 3-track master out of Columbia. It existed, but they didn't want to give it to him. They wanted to give him a 2-track mix down. And he fought. And you know what ends up? The money, and that's why he has to charge what he charges. And they got the 3-track master, and they insisted that only if Tony Bennett's son was in at the mastering and he was there, and that record's, the regular record's amazing, so that is cool.
And he's going to release it in an essay in both 2 and 3-track. So if you got a multi-channel SACD system, you can hear all 3 tracks. Pretty amazing.
Chad's going to get the award this year from the LA Orange County Audiophile. I'm going to roast him, and it's going to be.
I was wondering where you see multi-channel audio going, and aside from Stereophile, who has Calvin Rubinstein's column on the multi-channel processors, you don't read much of it, and video magazines are useless because all they're selling is junk. So I wonder why you guys still don't review these multi-channel devices, because a lot of us can't have a dedicated 2-channel room and a home theater at the same time, because the house is
like say top level. And if you want a true high-end player that does a very good job in just about everything that you can stick in that drawer, and now it plays USB sticks too. And I got some DSD multi-channel from high definition tape transfers. Bob Woodtrack sent me some samples of 4-channel tapes that he converted to DSD. I just put the thumb drive right in the front of the output. It brings it up and it plays the DSD in 4 channels.
Well, that's cool.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
It's still a real neat. That's a real niche market, you know.
It is.
My problem with this, it's hard enough to buy a good 2-channel system.
Exactly.
So then we're telling people invest in 5 channels. And then with rock, I think it's pretty well useless because what you end up with is 5 mono channels, and I don't want to hear the chick singers behind me. And for classical, I sit and listen to live classical music, and you know there's an ambiance around it. But how much do you want to pay for the ambiance as opposed to the?
I mean, what Chad's doing with James Guthrie, for example,
Yeah, well, that's
Pink
great.
Floyd,
Yeah.
I put serious money because it means remastering.
Yeah.
Anytime they have to do real remastering.
Remixing
From the multi-track.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they mastered. They're paying serious money. Chad's paying 5 figures to some engineer to sit there and really do
Yeah,
this.
so people bitch about his price. It's just.
I guess what I was getting to on that though is, all right, so you have the yoke and you're gonna feed some kind of a preamp, multi-channel preamp. It'd be nice to know who's the more musical than others, you know, and it's nice that you guys have, I mean, on 2-channel stuff, you guys, on preamps, get great reviews, so it would be nice to have occasionally the same thing on a multi-channel device, on the audio side of it, because that's sorely lacking.
We just haven't thought there's much reader interest. However, in the new issue, we have a review of the new Force multi-channel analog preamplifier for $9.95. So I mean, it's not much, but it's. In fact, the Absolute Sound used to say stereo music, multi-channel audio as its tagline, and now it's just stereo music.
Yeah. And I mean, there are options where you can simply stack 3 stereo amps and get what you want. I mean, they're believe me, I mean, there are those who that's what they do. I really like this amp.
And heat your house, but you don't need heater.
And I'm just taking analog outs from the players.
We still don't have a question.
Hi, do you have any opinions as to the potential repercussions of what's happened with Source Media this week?
Oh, I can tell you that, because that's my company. All that's happened is they changed the name to TEN, which stands for the Enthusiasts Network, and they've consolidated a bunch of redundant magazines, if that's what you're talking about, I think. So, like, they had Pontiac Vega magazine, Pontiac Grand Prix magazine, Pontiac GTO magazine, 20 GTO Pontiac magazines have all been conglomerated into one Pontiac magazine. But from the audio side of it, it means nothing for stereophiling, it means nothing for our websites. Everything will remain the same.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, John talked to me about it.
We think so. We're happy about that.
He says it looks good so far.
Yeah, just consolidating waste, getting rid of waste.
I am going to miss Pontiac GTO.
I know, me too.
Just saying.
What kind of discussions have y'all had about I'll call it the lifestyle concept, the idea of magazines or publications doing kind of above and beyond audio, doing watches, fine wine, cigars, kind of like a ship.
Whatever it takes to expand our audience, I'm all for it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I consider high-end audio to actually be a subset of La Dolce Vita. Back in the 90s, Gizmo, remember Harvey Rosenberg?
Yeah.
Gizmo and I, we were conniving back and forth, and we tried to talk to the pros of AHIA at that time, which to us meant something along the lines of a bunch of rich white folks who give awards to each other once a
That's
year.
all. And I emceed it, which was fun, but it was...
No, it just is what it was. It was, if you want to make a change, what Gizmo kept telling them was, don't advertise just in stereo magazines. He says you need to be in GQ, you need to be in Cigar Aficionado, you need to be in Wine Spectator, and so on. I agree with you completely. I think that we need to if you want to broaden the market to the people who understand quality and have money, we're gonna have to start talking to some new markets.
And they need a better experience going to the dealers, because there are some good dealers now, but there's a lot of dealers that in New York, some of the stores, a couple of beautiful stores, but there are also stores that are a little dirty. And you walk in there looking at your watch and looking at your shoes. They're pre-qualifying you for even coming into the store. Forget about which room you're going to go
That's a New
to.
York thing, that's not a.
You know, you need the Lexus white glove treatment for everybody that comes in. Is what
So,
you
you
need.
know, I get better treatment from the 21-year-old chick at my Acura dealer. than
I'm
I
sure you
do.
do. I'm sure you do.
You know, Meridian's taken
Because
that approach.
everyone's really well trained.
But Meridian's taken that approach by opening their own showrooms where they only feature their products and it's a beautiful setting.
Apple opened their
And they say,
stores.
we're reaching a customer who would never walk into a traditional high-end store.
Right.
And they have the association with Jack.
You know, a pair of Wilson sashes were on the cover of the New York Times style section last month, right on the cover. And it wasn't product placement. It was a story about this architect, very famous architect, and he had these speakers in his living room, which was amazing because we know that speakers in living rooms in America doesn't exist.
Well, I suggested that they actually do some product placement too. One of the things I suggested to Hia was, it was the early 90s, right? I said, in the next Schwarzenegger movie, when he's getting ready to go out and do his Terminator number on somebody, he's sitting in front of his fireplace, he's slathered in oil, he's naked, and next to him...
We all are when we
Yeah, exactly. Is a turntable and some cool tubes and fantastic music going, and everybody in the audience is going, what the hell is that?
And yet they are in movies now. I mean,
Yeah.
Star Trek, the last Star Trek
Oh,
movie
yeah.
set in the year 5000 had a tube amp and a turntable in it.
It was cool.
Yeah, because all the guys that are in the set design business and the script, they're all into high-end audio. They're getting into it and into turntables and tubes, and they stick this stuff in commercials. I mean,
Yeah.
Burger King commercials and record collections. Amazing. There's a Cialis commercial. I don't want to say it.
There's a program that's no longer out, but it's house, and I always stare at it.
That's right. And it was a soda. And it's not product placement. That company had nothing to do with it. And there was one in The Sopranos too. Copy or follow. And do you get that phone? I get that phone call. I get emails. It's never turned me on. I get emails. Did you see it? Did you see it?
Well, it's like the first time I had a guy who was about 19 years old, walked into my room while I was reviewing some tube amps. He walks into the room, no lie, blowing. He says, what are those bottles? Is that to light up the room? Is it a light? And, but you need to do that. You need to put it in.
Yeah.
Wow, you mean that amplifies the sound?
I played my system for a visiting manufacturer brought his brother who'd never heard a really good system. And
They
so
must be really good friends, brothers.
I've got two speakers and two amplifiers, and he's sitting in the sweet spot, and then afterward, he thought the amplifiers were sound projectors because he heard the image between the speakers.
Is that the center
And he
channel?
was only 4 years younger. So the interesting part is where is that transition? So I won't tell you my wife's age, which is 5 years younger than I am. She doesn't know what vacuum is. So I was in Detroit for a conference, so I took her to the Ford Museum and showed her about 5 million vacuum tubes.
She knows what a vacuum is, and
She knows
I'm sure you may.
Well, she knows what they are now, but it's really interesting. There's this magic time of people born, if you kind of draw the line around 1955. Before that, they knew what they were. After that, they kind of didn't see them.
We lost 2 generations with sound, I think.
I did, yeah.
We lost 2 generations. And this new generation they're hungry for it. There's something that they understand that they've been deprived of something that they want. And they knew something was missing, and now they're finding it out, and they're getting all access to it, which is the best part.
Well, our Redwood generation, we lost them.
That's right.
We're gonna have to scrape them back in, you know, and they're starting to get some.
They're old, no, but they're not that
Yeah, yeah, and, yeah.
What a question.
Yeah, so I'm actually new, relatively new to the audio.
Get out while you can. Get out.
I'm relatively new to the whole audio industry, maybe like 3-4 years. High-end audio. One of the things I noticed early on is I liked to say CDs, but I noticed they were actually not better just because they were higher resolution, but I think they were actually remixed, remastered, and all that stuff. Right. But with digital audio, like just streaming and MP3 and USB or whatever,
I don't see the same significant difference when you just go to like a higher resolution audibly. At least I don't have more than you. So in a sense, it's sort of, I feel like, when I saw the jump from an audio cassette to a CD, that was a big difference. From CD to SACD, again, it was a big difference, but they're all remastered, remixed, and redone to, to smoother. But simply just going from maybe 192 to a higher 256 or, maybe even a little bit, but I don't really see a huge difference of the nature that I saw from CD to. So that's, I feel, as a sort of a barrier for, for the masses to go chasing the higher resolution, although maybe the audio files can actually hear that.
Or you may have heard high-res files that weren't really high-res, that were upsampled. That's one of the dangers of upsampling standard resolution, calling it high-res. People listen to it and think, well, this isn't much better, it's not worth pursuing.
Yeah, they make generalizations that are false because they're not hearing what they think they're hearing. They label something isn't really that. For example, a lot of people are saying, this SACD doesn't sound much better. Heck, it was done from the same PCM
CD layer.
Well, this brings up, at least with CD, you had ADD, DDD, and something I brought up in a memo once back was that we needed somebody to come up with, some organization, that would at least somehow verify that, yes, this is actually what this is. I brought this up in a memo, 9 months ago, and it went nowhere, and that's okay.
But the problem is really huge because you can't make authoritative, credible statements about a format until you're sure of the provenance.
So do we need an organization that will verify the provenance?
It used to be called the government.
Well, we don't have that anymore. No, I mean, seriously,
That's bad.
that's
Well,
why.
forget government, we get somebody that people respect who with that label and
That's
such.
why I pulled a series of tape transfers myself in my listening room, touching nothing. And I had the chorus AD there, and I did double a quad, individual pulls, no resample, nothing. I did separate pulls, no great tapes, and listen. And I can tell you, there is a difference.
That's why you have to watch out for big labels because their habits are bad. They can always go bad.
Look, all they want to do is get a project. They're talking about shopping and stuff. That's what they're doing. They don't care.
Would you agree that the diminishing returns as you go higher and higher?
No.
Resolution would be like from an audio cassette to a CD to SACD, now it jumps. But I'm just asking you.
Well, from 96 to 192 to 384.
If you don't hear it, then don't worry about it.
There is, I would say there probably is, quote, some audible from, say, 192 to 3. I mean, there is only so much information that maybe the human can hear at some point in resolution, as well as what is the actual real resolution compared to the noise of the chip, or the electronics that are actually pushing it through. How are they doing what they do that actually reduces the resolution, regardless of what the original is?
But from my standpoint, it's pretty simple. PCM has a signature. I don't find it to be a positive signature. I don't find it to be something that delivers what we're used to when we're listening to open rail or master tape. So what I do is, if all I can get it on is PCM, well, I deliver that. But PCM, and just go to DSD. If I can get it single DSD, that's good. Double DSD is better, and probably the sweet spot in the trade-off. Just like open rail tape, you go faster, but there are trade-offs, and it gets a little expensive to take. But at double DSD, you have a sweet spot where you're getting maximum resolution for a certain file size. If I go to quad, it's absolute. In my experience, having done the pulls, you want the highest resolution that actually delivers the master tape itself. Having done the comparisons, quad doesn't. Quad doesn't. And that's the truth. Now that may not be a convenient truth. Because
we're transferring the history of audio that's on tape.
That's right.
That's the way to do
beautiful.
it.
And if you're going to do new recordings, I tell people, look, if you're interested in it, please record it in quad. Record it in quad. Then we don't have to worry about it. But analog tapes, you see all those PCM files we have, well, we're stuck with them. They're just what they are. Analog, the glory of analog, or even transferring some of our best LPs to digital. I'm sitting on planes now listening to DSD through that beautiful AK240 from Asplin Current.
Great.
And that bloody thing, I'm sitting there listening to double DSD. I'm a happy guy. I'm real live.
Despite the food they give you.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
so
lemon.
that, for what it's worth, yeah, it does get better. And quad DSD even makes audio engineers' job. So that's amazing.
I love being on a panel with guys more crazy than I am about the subject.
So why don't the publishers come up with your own rating system? Don't, instead of screwing around waiting for Universal or somebody, maybe or any of those guys.
Suggested it.
In Providence, why don't you guys come up with a 5-letter code that says, here's how screwed up the compression is, here's where its original source, whether it was tape, live, directed hits, or whatever.
It's hard getting the information. That's
Hard,
the problem.
hard to get that info. And
Well, but if you publish where you can get it, people start buying.
I do in my reviews.
I buy a lot of stuff from Casey because he goes to the trouble.
I talk to mastering engineers when I review a record. I'll find out what they use as the source and publish it always.
I have a question.
He gets my money.
I have a question back. If I decided to create some good resolution graphics and made sure that Chad and others that what they adhered to the graphic standard of being honest, and if they were caught, yanked their license, that it was actually labeled like silver could be $24.96, gold could be $192, and platinum could be. So if somebody came out with a standard labeling that you knew you could trust, would you like that? Is that something you guys would like? So if I did that and took the effort to, I don't know, spend 10, 20 grand and get a team in, you guys would be cool with that? But I would make the money on the licensing. You're okay? Myself. I would be selfish.
it's just.
You're okay with that?
If you get it wrong once, what happens to you?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm screwed. No, we yanked their license.
Well, I mean,
it can happen, but that's why you yank.
Michael is absolutely right. And it's what I told you. You can't trust the labels. They do not tell the truth.
No, that's why it needs to be an independent source.
Well,
That's why he
it's
acts like
hard.
this can't be done.
There's one guy
Guess
releasing
what?
vinyl
Good
and
Housekeeping Magazine
he says he
reports
remastered
for
it. This
100
guy's remastered by Blank, I can finish his name. He doesn't have a mastering suite. He doesn't have a studio. He didn't remaster it. And he says from the original tape, and I know that he's never had an original tape.
All right, well, now we're out of time. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks to the